the generally held, commonly held belief of anarchism is it's chaos, rock throwing, destruction. It's really the opposite of that. Have there been anarchists who threw rocks? Yes, of course. Am I judging them? No. But there's also, pick your category: Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people, tall people, short people, white people, black people. All of them have behaved badly at some level. There's
Totally agree.
so what, and anarchism, of all things, everybody gets to have their own definition. But for me, I studied it in school. I was drawn to a lot of the creative ideas around it, about human dignity, about believing everybody was equal, not in a flattening kind of way, but actually in a way that uplifts everybody and helps them to be themselves. Belief in involving people in running the organization of which they're a part and getting out of hierarchical thinking, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, when I graduated school and went to work in restaurants, that was the last thing on my mind. It wasn't anything I was paying any attention to. When I early days of managing, I sort of tried leaving everybody alone, and what I would now say was naive belief that, you know, they would just do the right thing. That, of course, didn't work out. So for many years, while I was reading Peter Drucker and Robert Greenleaf and all sorts of other great leadership, progressive leadership thinkers, I started to say to people that I viewed myself as a lapsed anarchist, because I still believed in it, but I had stopped practicing. And about, I don't know, it's probably 12 years ago now, I was working on part 1 of the Zingerman's Guide to Good Leading book series. And while I was working on it, you know, at this point, I'd been speaking at business conferences for many years. When I would give my personal history and I'd mention anarchism, most of the audience would sort of, you know, snicker nervously and have no idea, you know, like you said, rock throwing and chaos. And I just left it at that, because it wasn't the point of the talk and it didn't really matter, other than to get people paying attention a little bit. But anyway, while I was getting ready to, or working on the book, I got asked to speak at the Jewish Studies Department at University of Michigan by Deborah Dash Moore, who has retired. In fact, I got a nice email from her this morning about the e-news that I do. But anyway, she asked me to come and speak there, and she really wanted to call the talk Rye Bread and Anarchism, because I had just written this long 10,000 word essay on the history of Jewish rye, and she knew I'd studied the anarchists, and she thought, oh, this will be a really great guy to get, you know, come in and speak to Jewish studies. And so I said, sure, whatever, sounds great. And then when I got about 3 months out, I'm like, man, at business conferences, nobody even knows who the anarchists are. So I'm like the expert in the room, and it doesn't even come up. But now I'm going to go into the Jewish Studies Department, where they actually study these people. I haven't looked at these books in 20 years. I'm going to look like an idiot. So I dug all my old books out, and I started to reread stuff that I had been, you know, very into when I was in school. And it really blew my mind for 2 reasons. First, because unconsciously we had recreated so much of this in the best possible way, about human dignity, about not thinking hierarchically, about treating everybody with respect, regardless of their role, age, gender, race, whatever. So it was kind of like, wow, we actually did a lot of this. We didn't try to in an overt way, but it had happened. The other thing, and this is what really blew my mind, is how parallel so much of the thinking of early 20th century anarchists was to what's now called progressive business. And it's only because I'm weird enough to be reading like Jim Collins and Emma Goldman at the same time that it struck me. Nobody else was doing that. They're either reading Emma Goldman or they're reading Jim Collins, but ne'er the twain generally will meet. But things like self-organizing work teams, employee engagement, belonging, purpose, like this is all stuff that the anarchists that I study were really focused on. Higher levels of spiritual engagement, not about religion per se, but just honoring the human spirit, art, creativity. How do you help everybody become an artist? Like this is all stuff they were writing about en masse, many times in pamphlets, per your earlier comment, back in 1900. It's just a lot of them were going to jail for it, and now it's on the bestseller list.
Yeah, it's interesting. So basically, when you're talking about anarchy, you're talking about going against too much structure? You're talking about too much
No,
top-down
it's
management?
all
I mean,
about
so
structure. It's just that the people who are part of the structure participate in creating the structure. So
right,
it's actually all about organization. It's just that the typical model would be you and I are the bosses. We go figure it out. Maybe we hire a consultant or we talk with the top 3 managers. Then we show up at the meeting and tell the other 300 people how they're going to do it. This
right.
is now well understood, whether you go through lean manufacturing work or you go through employee engagement. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, with all due respect to bosses, we don't really know what we're doing. We're all just trying to figure it out. And I don't mean we don't have insight or experience or wisdom to share, but so does the newest person we just hired, because they have beginner's mind and they're going to see stuff that I've long since lost track of 40 years down the road. So it's really about organizing the business, or organizing the, if it's a nonprofit, it would be the same, but organizing the business in a way that involves the people who are in it in a structured, effective way that brings all those voices out into the room. And it gets out of hierarchical thinking, which is the implication that, like, I'm a better person because I'm the owner.